welcome to another episode of the Live Your Yes Life podcast. My name is Lisa Limata. I will be your host for this episode, and I have a really special guest today. I am interviewing Irene McKenna, and Irene is a master EFT practitioner. She is a chakra healing practitioner and a quantum human design level 4 specialist. She works with coaches and healers. We get into all the things. We talk quite a bit about human design in this episode, and we really talk about the way that Irene is living her yes life, what her journey has been like. She talks a lot about how discovering human design for her was this pathway to really knowing and honoring her authentic self, something we talk about a lot here on this podcast. And so I'm really excited for you to hear what she said yes to, what she said no to, so that she could step into her yes life in the way that it is exactly perfect for her. And we talk about all the things. So enjoy this episode. Welcome, Irene. I'm so excited to have you here today. And I just, first off, want to start off with letting our listeners get to know you a little bit. So could we take a minute just for you to share a bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. I am so excited to be here and connect with you, or reconnect with you, I should say, because it's been a little bit of time. And that kind of is who I am right now, is a human design strategist, EFT practitioner. Who I am beneath that is mom, and wife and all of those things. And so that has evolved, because I think when we knew each other before, I was a parenting coach, and that was like where I was in my life at that point, was being a better mom to my kids. And then that has evolved to what was it that I wanted to do. And that's been a slow evolution and build over the last couple of years.
I love that. Yes. So it is so fun to reconnect with you again. I think that when Kayla and I started the very first year of our mastermind at Rise Leadership Circle, I think that you were in that very first cohort. Is that correct? Yeah. So fun to think back. And it was so long ago now. I think we're entering year 7 at Rise, which is crazy to me how quickly the time has flown. And it has been really fun to stay connected and watch your journey evolve as well, because that truly is what it's all about. So I know that when we talked, a few months back, and you mentioned you had started really going to do a deep dive with human design. I was excited about that because, I think we talked about this a bit. I love human design. I love numerology. I love I call them kind of like a mystical science. I love these things that teach us more about ourselves, or really, I should say, help us have a better understanding of who we are. And to me, that's one of the things that human design can do for us. It helps us understand ourselves so that we can create the greatest success. That's how I love to think about it. So you specialize in helping people embody their authentic self, and I love that we have that in common. But can you tell me, what does that mean to you, and why is it so important?
I think what it means to me is being true to yourself, and that can change, moment to moment, day by day, but it's trusting yourself enough to know in the moment what is right for you. What are your values in that moment? What do you stand for in that moment, without needing to prove anything or be something that you're not? And who you show up to be is rooted in that self-belief in who you are. And knowing that and being able to show up that way allows you to explore what that might mean, like what that might mean for you in your decision making, in building your business, in whatever it is that you're in the middle of. It does give you this pathway through. And what I love human design for is getting out of your head, right? And I think that's also about being your authentic self, is that doesn't happen in your head, right? Your authentic self doesn't live in your head. It has to be in your body, and feeling your way into decisions and feeling your way into what is correct for you unapologetically.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about this journey for you and how that's played out for you? Because I imagine that that was your part of your journey, right? Getting into human design and EFT and chakra healing. So, could you tell me a little bit about how this came to be? And it's quantum human design, correct? So, is there a difference with that too?
Yeah, I can start with that just to lead in. So, quantum human design is like the evolution of traditional human design. So, when traditional human design came out in 1987, it was given to like shock people, right? Personal growth wasn't a thing in 1987, right? It was we were all most of us anyway were living in our not self, which means we weren't being authentic. We didn't even know what that meant necessarily. And he had always talked about creating an awakened language for human design because traditional human design is like getting you from who you're not to like baseline. And so he had talked about creating an evolved version, and unfortunately passed away suddenly in 2011, I believe. And so one of his students, Karen Curry Parker, in 2018 started writing that language. So it kind of takes you from now I know what I'm not, but what am I moving towards? And quantum human design gives us that evolved high vibration language.
Hmm. Yeah. So, it feels like what you're saying is it's sort of like human design 2.0, like how it is evolving as our understanding of it is evolving with it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, great. So, how did you get here? Like, I'd love to hear a bit about your story from, maybe the point when I knew you as a parenting coach to now doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, so when we kind of connected, it was when I was in the middle of my parenting coach journey. That had evolved from being a health coach, which I knew early on didn't feel right. And then I really resonated with parent coaching. And it was, as I said before, was what I needed at that moment. And so I was building my business in that realm. And I think I was still operating from not having a true sense of who I was and what I wanted. And I was going after it for reasons that were, if we look at human design, that open heart center, like trying to prove myself, right? Trying to not disappoint others, trying to be the good daughter, the good mom, and feeling like I was failing miserably at all of it because nothing felt in flow. And it was also, like I said, what I needed that in essence saved my family at the time because my personal growth is what created the relationships that we have today with my two boys, with my husband, and so that got me there. And then as I went through, I'm like, okay, something's missing. I had come across human design. It didn't necessarily resonate with me right in the beginning. Certain pieces did, but not the whole thing. And so I became an EFT practitioner and was really working on trauma and anxiety and kind of shifting to doing the inner child work with parents, which is really what parent coaching was. It's just what they're coming to me changed. And as I'm going through that and continuing to dive deeper into human design, it just came to a point where as I said, like a year ago in the form I filled out, I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore. I don't even know if I want to do this because I realized I really was doing it for all of these reasons outside of myself. And so the I think bravest thing I did at the time was put it all down a year and a half ago or so. I just put it down. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to pick it up again. I loved learning. So I was studying human design. I was doing EFT. I was getting my certification. I was like, I don't know if it's going to be a business or not. I have no idea. And I can still remember my husband said at one point, like, you're going to get back to making money, right? And I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. And there was no guilt or pressure on that, which for me was huge because it had always been I needed to do something to prove my worth. Like just me being and taking care of everything I take care of at home wasn't enough. It had to be this additional thing. And so that allowed me to actually really go into my human design and start following those gut responses, following that yeses, because that yes of putting it all down was my sacral response screaming at me for a long time, but me being terrified to actually do it. And so after that, it was like all of these synchronicities started happening where things just start unfolding because that's how it happens. When you open the space, things begin to happen. And that's where I found quantum human design and became certified as a level 4 quantum human design specialist. I finished my master EFT practitioner certification, did all of these things, and came around to really seeing the power in using human design for guidance in anything, but specifically for me in business, and following those yeses and creating the life and the schedule that I wanted finally uh without compromise, right? I don't want to work evenings. So finally I'm like, you know what? I'm not working evenings. It was all of those things, but it was figuring out who I was, using human design as my map that allowed me to get to that point.
Hmm. Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is like it was like this door that opened up for you, and the moment you walked through it, you were able to see what you were a yes for, what you were a no for, when you were saying yes because it was for other people, and you just had that sense of clarity. So, I really love that this was like such a breakthrough for you first. And then I'd love to hear like what was the point where you decided that you were going to offer this as a business and kind of step back into that world again?
So I was in a couple coaching groups that I had joined when I still, before I put it all down. And so I was still in them and I still loved connecting. And I would just go in there and I would just offer, it was a smaller group. So I would just offer human design and be like, oh, look at it from this, because I could see so clearly what was holding people back. Like, where were they in the lower expression? Because ultimately human design is, right, the 64 energetic archetypes, and it allows us to say like, okay, this is where I'm in the lower expression, this is where I can move to the higher expression. And it becomes a choice when we can see it. There's also built into our chart these sticky points, so to speak, these conundrums that can lead us to feel stagnant or stuck or overwhelmed. When we can understand those points, we can kind of transcend them rather than getting stuck in the cycle. So I'm in these groups and I just kept seeing amazing coaches being held back by things that so clearly could move them forward. And so I just started offering, I just started speaking to it. And I was like, I need to bring this to these entrepreneurs, these coaches, these healers that need to get out there, because I believe that coaches and healers and light workers are on that leading cusp of this evolution that we're in, which in human design is coming in 2027, right? This big evolution. And I can work with so many people. But if I can help these coaches get out there and do more and work with more people, we're just creating this exponential healing. And I had this tool that I just could not keep to myself.
Mm. Let's break it down for someone who's listening who is like, okay, that sounds great. There are probably many people listening who've never had their own human design reading, right? So they may know a little about it or maybe know nothing at all. So let's just talk a little bit about, let's speak to the person who just knows she's kind of like where you were, where it was like, okay, I am in this space, I'm not fully aligned with what I'm doing, I'm sensing there's something else, but I'm not sure what it is or what the frustration is for me. How does human design help this person, help her get clarity, her or him get clarity into what actually might be their alignment?
Sure. So, human design in its essence is like an energetic blueprint of who you came here to be. And often, when we're in that space of knowing we're not aligned, that's where we go to our head to try to figure it out. And that's where I find so many people are trying to find their purpose, right? What do I do? What do I do for my purpose? And purpose isn't something we do, it's inside of us, it's something we master. And human design gives us those energetic archetypes to explore in a way that breaks it down from this ginormous, like, where do I even begin? To, like, so for example, for me, my life's work is embodying authenticity and then mastering that and then teaching it to others. So by knowing that and kind of being in that, I can say, okay, this who I have to be is radically authentically myself. And then everybody has to, but for me, this is what I'm bringing out into others. And so learning that was like, well, it's already what I'm talking about. And it just naturally fits. Where I have clients where For example, their life's work might be all about helping people realign to joy. And that sounds very broad, but when they can know this and explore this specific energy, it almost creates this permission and this freedom to understand who they are on that deeper level. And what human design does as our compass is it helps us get back into our body and teaches us how to make decisions, because our body is what is directly connected to the quantum field, right? Our body is that physical vehicle for our soul. And when we tune into our body, retune into our body to help us make decisions and use it as our compass, we get out of our head, which was never meant to be a decision maker. And yet we get stuck in there because that's what we're taught. And that's what society tells us. That's what school tells us, that we figure it all out in our head. Human design is the map back to who you came here to be on an energetic level with very specific points of contemplation. So it's not this broad thing of where do I go from here? It can be a very specific map to getting there.
Thank you. That was such a good explanation. So, I want to talk about you a little bit because we're here on the Live Your Yes Life podcast, and you are someone to me who has stepped into your version of yes. So, let's talk a little bit about, your dream yes and what it looks like for you personally. So, tell me a little bit like how is saying yes to yourself and to your authentic self and your gifts, how has that really shaped your life and business to the place that you're at now?
So I think for me, there are certain things in my life, certain responsibilities that for a long time I resisted, that took me out of that yes life, that I felt like it will, unless these things change, I can't have that yes. One of them being, so up until this September, I homeschooled both of my kids for the past 4 years since the pandemic. And this year, my younger one decided to go back, and I'm still homeschooling my older son. And he is a challenge to homeschool, I will say. And so for a long time, it was this big resistance of not wanting to do it. But what I was trying to do was control. And what I could see was in my life in so many areas, how I was trying to control everything to get to a certain outcome. So for me, living my yes life is being present in the moment, allowing my dreams to be there and to manifest and to trust the process, and just to keep coming back to um, how do I know that my son has to do these specific lessons in order to be successful in life? And using him as that mirror for me of when I'm reverting back into control. And so, being that there's these things that I can either choose to embrace and work together, or I can be in resistance. And I think that shows up in so many areas of our life, because when we're in that mindset that these are my circumstances, I have no control. What I'm trying to do is then control them versus just being present. So for me, that dream yes is really just being present and allowing the manifestation of my dreams to come true, which for me looks like traveling with my family. It looks like being fully present when I'm with them versus being fully present when I'm with clients or working in the business. It means enjoying outdoor time, even when it is like 5 degrees today. But it's all of those just being present and allowing the next step to come forth and allowing it to evolve. I mean, 2 years ago, I wanted to pack everything up and go live in an RV. And my whole family's like, no, we are not doing that at all. And I was in so much resistance because I thought that was the answer to the freedom that I was seeking. But it was just being present and accepting in full surrender and acceptance of the moment I'm in, and allowing the choices that I'm making in that moment take me closer to who I want to be, rather than what I think I need or what I think I need to do or what I need others to do for me, but just to be fully present.
I love this. This is such a good definition of living your guest life. Letting go of control, like surrendering to being here and what's present. And I know that is not an easy path, and I'm sure everyone tuning in is like, yep, I can see some of that to myself, because we all like to control. There's a perceived safety in control. And when we let go, right, we have to face all the things that we thought we were controlling for. I have seen the evolution in you, and I love the way that you are just flowing through your life and embracing who you are and what you love. And, it's just really super inspiring. So thank you for sharing that. What would you say is your secret ingredient for success?
I think my secret ingredient for success is compassion for myself. And what that looks like is I know that I need certain self-care elements to be my best. And I know that I'm not perfect at doing them. And I know that life comes up like, I have a sick child right now, which means I don't get to bed, which means I don't get up early. And so by having that compassion and letting that lead, it allows for flexibility. Like, oh, maybe today I just sit by myself and drink this cup of tea versus needing an hour in the morning for myself. But with compassion being that ingredient that allows me to do that so that I can let that be enough. Because when I'm in judgment that this isn't enough, the little bit I'm doing isn't doing anything for me. But when I can be in that state of compassion and just, okay, this is what it is today, and be okay with that, it's like I get the energy from the full hour that I would like to spend because I was okay with what was.
Yeah, thank you for that. I feel like I talk to women all the time who will tell me, like, yeah, I feel guilty when I'm pouring into my business because I'm not pouring into my family. Or if I'm pouring into myself, I feel guilty because, I'm not putting that time into my business. And so there can be this either or. And for you, you're saying apply compassion, right? Apply compassion, because you can be compassionate for those feelings and then choose from a place of presence. So, yeah, this is really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I would love to know if someone's curious about quantum human design, EFT, the chakra healing that you do. What is the best way for them to connect with you?
Sure, there's two main ways. One is my website, irenemckenna.com. You can actually go on there and run your human design chart and get access to what I call the cheat codes for your type from a business flavoring. So you can run your chart, you can connect with me there, or on Facebook. I have a Facebook group, Human Design Strategy for Women Entrepreneurs, which you can come in there and explore human design as a total newbie and what that looks like. And so those are the two, I think, best ways to reach out to me. Um, on my website, you can also just send an email so we can connect that way, or Messenger on Facebook, I think are the two best ways to connect.
Thank you so much. What is one final piece of wisdom that you would love our listeners to leave with today?
I would say that this is the time for you to just start listening to yourself and noticing the areas where you might not be, where you may not be allowing yourself to be messy or to be, what's the word I'm looking for here, to feel inadequate. Not that you are in any way, but I think when we can notice the areas that we're feeling that, we can confront what's driving it. And so my wisdom would just be, again, I think coming back to that presence in the moment when we feel confronted, when we feel stuck, it's just to pause and just tune in to our body. This kind of comes from EFT, but it might be like, oh, like I want to go live and I'm noticing this pit in my stomach, right? And rather than just trying to push through and do the thing, just being present, like, oh, wow, I'm really feeling this pit in my stomach because I'm worried that people are going to laugh at me, or I'm worried that nobody's going to, tune in, or I'm going to stumble over my words, and just giving voice to those parts of yourself that are showing up in that moment, just wanting to be loved, just wanting to belong. And so often I think, especially as entrepreneurs, we can try just to push through, right? Push through the discomfort rather than just being present to it, allowing it to pass through and then taking the aligned action that feels correct for you. So it's all about getting back into your body.
Wise words. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to connect with you today and to get to share you with our audience. I want to wish you a happy new year. And yeah, I look forward to continuing to following your journey.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. Happy New Year. At the time that we're dropping this episode, we are in the second week in January. And if you're like me, you've probably been feeling pretty excited to start with a fresh slate, a whole new year of goals mapped out. We've really, since November, I would say, in the behind the scenes at Rise Leadership Circle, we have been refining our systems and our processes and so many things that allow us to serve our clients on a much deeper level than we ever had before. And it just feels so good. I feel on fire with clarity and purpose. And I'm just really, really excited to step into 2025. And I wanted to check in with you and see how you are feeling. Do you feel like you have a really solid system and a plan for 2025 to really hit your goals and beyond this year? If you have a business, if you're an entrepreneur and you would love to sit down and have a chat about those goals for this year, we are offering an opportunity to do that for free right now. You can book your own 90-day expansion call. So the way that we hit our goals in Rise is we work 90-day plan to 90-day plan. So each quarter has its own plan in order to keep us on track to hitting our business goals at the end of the year, to allowing us to serve on a deeper level. So if you want to create your own 90-day plan, you can click the link below where you can book your own expansion call. We will talk about what the next 90 days looks like for you to help you get that clarity. And I hope I'll see you over there. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode.